get for a battery cleaning brush. You've got the female side for cleaning the post. You got the male side for cleaning the inside of the connector. If you have a side post, you can use this kind of like a brush or just a straight brush like this. It's handy to also have a straight brush. These are steel brushes, and this will help do some of the outside of the connector and that kind of thing. So first we're going to attempt to clean this, and I can see already I'm going to have to take this cap off because it's going to get in the way. And not only that, but if you notice carefully, I put the cap on backwards. Now it will seal the battery, but notice that it's touching the edge there, and that's because the caps are not in the center of the cap, which is pretty common on these. This cap should be going this direction. Same with this one here. So I put them on backwards. They might have been on backwards. I wasn't paying attention. But again, like I said, I need to get in there with this and get all the way down on that. So I'm going to leave this cap off for the moment. All right, now we're going to want to get the inside of this. This is one of the most important things you can do if you're having any kind of intermittent electrical connection, because it happens frequently that these top posts get really bad connections developing between the connector and the terminal. And you'll have things like you all of a sudden get out and all of a sudden the battery appears to be dead, and you're like, well, I didn't have any warning of that. And a lot of people think that is a dead battery when it's really just a bad connection. You come out, you hook jumper cables to it, and wiggling it just through the process of connecting the jumper cables is enough for it to make a new connection, and you think that your battery is dead. But it's not. All that dust coming out of there, that's still the sulfate. Cover that up. Both sides turn. There's still a danger of shorting your battery out directly between the posts. So if you have a long wrench or something like that, even though both leads can be disconnected, if whatever you're doing is metallic and it ends up touching one terminal to the other, you're going to get a short. And like I said, that can be very dangerous to yourself and your vehicle or battery. Wow. This is lead oxide here, this black stuff that's not coming off. It's harder to get off, as you can see. Also, the negative lead is smaller. A lot of people don't know that. On a top post, the plus terminal is bigger in circumference than the minus terminal. So the brush doesn't bite in quite as well. And this particular style of brush with this plastic casing around it doesn't allow the brush to get all the way down to the base. So we're still going to use this brush to try to clean some of that better. You can also use a file gently. If you don't have a brush, I might have to go back and get a file because this brush is pretty worn down. Yeah, at this point I'm going to put the caps back on because we're going to rinse here in a minute. See how much distance there is there now, where there wasn't before? These caps were touching because they were backwards. That's all muddy. Okay. And of course, get the inside of this one. The cleanliness of the inside of the connectors and the outside of the terminals is the most important thing, because those are the two that make contact with each other. Everything else is really just appearance. Now, if it's highly corroded, it can damage the physical integrity of it, and the connector could just literally disintegrate at some point. But the most important part of the connection is the bare metal here and the bare metal on the inside of the connector. That should be clean and free of corrosion or lead sulfate, which actually doesn't conduct very well. Yeah, it's a good idea to wear eye protection when you're doing this. Sorry about that. Okay, all right, so you can see that's a nice clean brass connection on the inside there. This is a lead one, so it's got the silver tone to it. All right. Now we're just about ready to connect them back up, but I am going to rinse this off, get some of that mud off of there. Go ahead and pour a little more corrosive stop on it. Not much left there. A little bit of bubbling. Let it fizz some more. Okay, rinse. This will create a mess on your concrete below, so you want to make sure you rinse that good too before it dries, otherwise it's hard to clean. Okay. All right, now at this point, you want to dry this off, because that can be a little bit conductive of the crosshair. And now we're going to go ahead and give it the Revolt treatment. By the time the Revolt's done, this is Nevada, so action. Peter, I apologize about this if you're watching this video. I know this unit was for you. It still is, but otherwise I had to go back into the shop to get one, so I'm going to open your box here, brother. This is the Revolt Pro S1. It's the one that's for sale to the public. You got your operating manual right there at the top. Back of the manual are spare fuses. I know how to operate it, so I'm not going to read the manual, but you really should. There's many important safety notes in there. This is just to keep the clamps from marring the keypad there. And there's the unit. Unlike most things that come with this kind of a connector on them, this is a 12-foot cord, so not a little 3 or 6 foot one, so it should pretty much go where you need to go with it. Also notice that the Revolt's right there close to the top. If you do cut it with a razor, don't dip it very low below the surface of the cardboard, or you may end up cutting the manual and even possibly scratching the outside of the unit, which is going to get scratched up real fast, I guarantee it. Anyway, so maybe that's not a big deal. You want to set the unit in here somewhere where it's going to be stable. If you can put it outside the vehicle, that's fine. I kind of like to do it in the vehicle, because that way it's got shade on it. If it rains a little bit or something like that, it should be protected. The Revolt is not water resistant in any way, so do not get it wet. And if you're in some kind of really dusty environment, or there are any flammable gases that could be in the area, well, number one, you shouldn't even be breathing those, but number two, yeah, don't operate the Revolt in that kind of environment either. All right. This is the primary fuse on the clamps. This fuse is a 10 amp standard automotive, and this may look kind of hokey, but it's purposely done this way because when burning starts happening, if it's a molded fuse holder, you won't be able to see that. These are quick connects, which are readily available. You know, you can get them at the hardware store. So this is actually, even though it looks kind of crazy, is very serviceable by the user if you're just a little bit handy. All right, I'll go plug it in. little up here so you can see the display on the keypad. Is it good? Okay, can you read it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, right there, revive, that is the first function that's used to generally bring back a dead battery. We may have to fall back to that with this battery, but we're going to try the boost first, which is normally what we do every year. We do this function, and this has a 1, 2, 4, I think up to 8 hour setting. I'm going to set it for 6 hours because this battery is way weaker than we normally like to start this. So we just select that 1 hour, oops, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now we're going to go ahead and hook the positive lead on the positive and the negative lead on the negative. If you get sparks at this point, there's something wrong. You should have no sparks. And then we're going to go ahead and hit the select, and it will start the process here. And see, it's only at 10 volts, so the battery may have a shorted cell, which is something the Revolt can repair. We'll see what the voltage looks like in a minute or two. That voltage updates every minute, so you're not going to see an immediate, second by second change. So it makes it a little harder to see. I'll leave that on there for you, Pete. It's minute 1 of 360. On the front, if you don't see that on, then that usually indicates the battery is open or heavily sulfated, which will produce the same result. It kind of looks like the battery's all opened up. And in heavily sulfated batteries, that can sometimes take hours before it begins to light up. But once it does, then the unit's getting traction on the battery finally, and it's starting to be able to put charge into it, and the desulfation occurs faster and faster. It's a progressive thing at that point. But it's already, in usable shape. You heard it clicking the starter, so there's enough there to catch it instantly. When it switches to minute 2, we should see the voltage at that point. Also, this is the exhaust fan here. Keep it clear. This is the intake side. Keep it clear. Again, if you're in a really dusty, okay, there we are. So that's a minute, and now we're at 12.8 volts. So this looks good. It doesn't seem to have a shorted cell, not a heavily shorted one. It may still have one that is got some pretty low internal resistance or parallel resistance. So that'll prove out once we start using the battery again. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and let it run like this. And one other thing to remember is when you fill the battery, there are usually tubes that go down inside from the holes. Never fill the battery up into those tubes. The battery should always, or the water level should always be at the very bottom of those tubes, or a little lower even on a used battery. If you overfill it, then you better hope that the battery's dead and dump some of it out, because otherwise your solution will never get saturated enough and the battery just won't have enough power. Just going to review the unit a little bit while it's operating here quickly. Again, here's the power switch. This is the absorption light, keypad obviously, handle, fan, where the power cord goes in. And the other side there. So that's a full 360 of the unit for you. People ask why this is this way. This is again a shop serviceability thing. The obvious thing you do in something like this when you're just a DIY guy is you drill a hole in it, you put a grommet there and all of that stuff. But I'm not going to get into it on this video. But obviously the leads on this machine can suffer some thermal degradation, and so all of this is really meant this way to be user serviceable.